General, what we're experiencing in Ukraine right now, is this the beginning of a new war?
Well, we don't know. What we know is it is, as defined by the White House, an invasion, albeit an invasion of an area already controlled by Russian separatists, supported by the Russians. And we know also that Russian forces are postured to invade Ukraine, again, much more broadly from northeast and south. But what we don't know is what is in Vladimir Putin's mind, other than the enormous set of grievances that he laid out yesterday in his attempt to sort of relitigate history and how the Cold War ended and the rest of that. He has to be thinking in the back of his mind, certainly, that while he could very clearly overwhelm Ukrainian conventional forces, that it may be very difficult to occupy Ukraine. I have some experience in this regard. I was the commander of the 101st Airborne Division during the invasion of Iraq. The good news is we control Kyiv or Ukraine or what have you. The bad news is you control Kyiv, Ukraine. What do you do with it, especially if they don't welcome you there and indeed seek to fight against you? And as I said, the interaction I had with Ukrainian parliament members, foreign minister, and listening to President Zelensky was pretty clear to me that they intend to fight. Afghanistan, likewise. And he knows, he's old enough to remember the Soviet experience in Afghanistan, what happened when the insurgents there were provided support by the US and other countries, and how humiliating it was a decade later when Soviet forces had to leave. So again, that's where we find ourselves. He also knows that he can easily weather the sanctions that have been imposed, though they're significant, and I think very significant in particular for Chancellor Scholz to be the first one to announce this, and to announce the one that we all know best and know how painful it was for him to announce.
Did Chancellor Scholz wait too long to announce the sanctions or to put Nord Stream 2 on hold?
No, I don't think so. I thought that, he's the first in the wake of this latest provocation to make an announcement. I thought it was very prompt and very swift. The UK Prime Minister followed, and then, of course, the US followed. Now, even what the US did is still a prelude of what more could come. There is a lot of, as they say, runway out there for further sanctions, the most significant of which would be the cutoff of Russia from the SWIFT financial transaction system. The real big one would be if the US said that intellectual property that we created and that is used by countries like Korea, also by Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation and so forth, to make microchips, that could not be exported to Russia. So it's not just the chips they might get from us, it's chips from others who make those chips based on US intellectual property. That would be very, very significant. And again, much broader sanctions on those around him who like to send their kids to various EU countries and the UK and so forth and so on.
Right. Still, some say, as Biden announced all these sanctions you were just talking about, but he still rules out military intervention. Some say Putin has nothing to fear. What do you make?
I mean, he has a lot to fear. Again, keep in mind the biggest fear he should have is that Ukraine would be the porcupine that is very difficult to digest. I was just at the Munich Security Conference. It was great to be back in Germany, by the way. And in that trip, what I found was the greatest solidarity among NATO members and others, actually, that I've seen since I went there as a young major, as a speechwriter for the Supreme Allied Commander during the Cold War.
Did Putin help NATO?
Oh, of course he did. He's the greatest gift to NATO since the end of the Cold War. He set out to make Russia great again. What he's really done is make NATO great again by his actions. That threat has unified NATO in a way that it hasn't been, again, since the wall came down, the Warsaw Pact and the Soviet Union dissolved.
So this is a first that so much intel is made available to the public.
Well, we've always done some of that, but this is an industrial strength application of that concept. And I suspect it's a result of some very bright folks on the National Security Council staff, perhaps at state, CIA, and so forth, but it has been quite striking. And of course, then you also have the advent of the TikTok war. This is the first time where you can really follow real time and watch and see what Russian forces look like, where they're deployed, and all the rest of that. And, I thought in my mind, maybe Putin could have restricted these areas, but he has forces in so many different areas of Belarus, Russia, and so forth, that he really can't restrict the citizens from their own communities. So you see that, and of course, Twitter and other social media applications, which have been very helpful to those of us just looking at open source intelligence real time and seeing what is being assembled.
From a military perspective, sir, what needs to be done to stop Putin?
President Biden, vice president when I worked with him, I think has been correct in saying that we're not going to put U.S. forces on the ground. Again, domestically, that's just not viable for us, and he doesn't want to start World War III.
What has to happen that the U.S. gets militarily involved?
Well, it would be something that triggers the Article 5 collective self-defense agreement that is the cornerstone of the NATO alliance. And that's why, of course, President Biden announced the movement of additional U.S. troops into the 3 Baltic states. That's why we pushed the 82nd Airborne Division into Eastern Ukraine, the mechanized brigade. It's why we're taking actions to support the other Eastern European frontline states if Russia goes all the way to the west edge of Ukraine.
Do you expect Putin to attack a NATO member?
No, goodness, no. No, I think he knows that that would be the ultimate red line.
Last question, sir. What do you expect from Europe, and in specific, what do you expect from Germany? Do you need more assistance than just
what I expect is solidarity. That's what I saw at the Munich Security Conference, and I'm sure that's what we'll see from here. But with that, I'm afraid that I've got to go.
Okay, thank you very much. Auf Wiedersehen. Thank you. Bye.